everyone. Hope you're all doing well out there. Definitely interested to see how the rest of this weekend plays out with Superman being, opening weekend. So I definitely want to share my thoughts on the film. Before we get into that, if you're new, thank you for checking out the channel, and thank you to the continued support on the channel, even though I don't post as regularly as I used to anymore. But like I said, when I feel like it's a topic that I think is necessary to bring up on the channel or discuss, or something really interesting, then I still want to stop by and, cover that topic. I just want to clarify something before I start giving my thoughts. I think a lot of people on the channel and or Twitter thought that, people kept telling me as I would do trailer reactions, trailer reviews, or talk about things to do with the film before it came out, people were under the impression that I wasn't going to watch the movie. But I would usually clarify by saying, I've never said I wasn't going to watch the movie. I said I wasn't going to watch it in theaters. Big difference. Okay? Meaning, of course I'm going to watch it. It's Superman and it's DC. I'm going to watch it. But I'm not going to give Warner Brothers DC money for me to watch it, and do with that information what you will. Okay? I'm not trying to encourage or promote anything specific. I'm just saying that's how I personally felt about it. Yes, I wanted to see what they had to offer with this movie, but I'm not paying to watch it in theaters. I don't really think they deserve that right now. So, and not all movies are worth paying for to watch in theaters, even if you want to give it a chance. I watched it, did not pay to watch it in theaters. Do with that information what you will. That was my personal choice. Not promoting or encouraging anyone to do the same. I've never discouraged people from watching it either, because some people have said things like, oh, you don't want people no, I've never encouraged people not to watch it. Watch it. It's a Superman movie. It's a DC movie. Watch it. See what you think about it. See how you feel about it. So, I'm definitely not... There was nothing that caught me by surprise with this movie. It's 100% what I expected. It's nothing that I didn't expect. I think it was pretty predictable what we were going to get with this movie based on trailers and, promotions and things that we saw before the movie was released. I don't expect to get into spoilers in this review because it is opening weekend. I'm not going to spoil anything that's, that wouldn't really be fair. I just want to give my general thoughts on it. Overall, like I said, it was what I expected. I don't think it was 100% terrible, and I don't think it was 100% amazing or like wow. I just think it was fine. It was fine. There wasn't anything particularly endearing to me as far as like not movies that you really are like, oh wow, that really stuck with me, like I'm really gonna hold on to that and I want to go back and watch it again. Like I didn't really get that from this movie. It was just like fine, and moved on, and that's it. I will say something that I hope this is not too spoilery. It's kind of just like a general thing about the movie. But one thing that was a little strange for me as far as like the experience of watching the movie is that it starts kind of in the middle of what is going on and what the story is and what the plot is and what the conflict is. And that may not make sense until you watch the movie if you haven't seen it yet. If you have watched it, or when you do watch it, that might make more sense the way the movie starts. I do think that that's fine to do in movies, but maybe if then you go back and show what led up to that, it might feel like more of a complete whole experience instead of kind of just throwing you into the middle of what's going on and then continuing from there. And it can also it also kind of makes it feel like a sequel in a sense, like there was something before that maybe we should have seen, like I said, leading up to it. I don't know. That was kind of just my experience with it. It was a little bit of a strange way to start the film and then just continue in a linear way from that point. Some characters that I found particularly annoying. I know that they were supposed to be annoying, but they kind of were just like, why? You know what I mean? Before I get into supporting characters, let me just start with David Cornsweet as Superman / Clark. We definitely see him more as Superman than Clark in this movie. I mean, he's in the suit like 90% of the film, and most of what's going on is Superman, not necessarily Clark, which is fine too. But, you know, since this is not really an origin movie or origin story, I kind of get that. But I still think it's nice to have kind of a balance between Clark and Superman. There are moments of Clark, of course, but it's mostly Superman, and that's fine. I do think that acting wise, I think he was fine. I didn't really have issues there. More of my issues with the character was the way they wrote for him, the writing for him, not necessarily the actor, which I think was kind of the same issue for me in Superman Returns. Brandon Routh was perfectly good casting for Clark / Superman, in my opinion, but the story that they gave for the film was just too bland, and so he didn't get I don't think it was a good representation of how he could be as that character, because the story was bland and weak, and I kind of felt that same feeling when watching this movie. The way that they wrote for the character and kind of the plot and just the way that they portrayed him was a little weak to me. Literally, Superman was too weak, in my opinion. Felt like this version of Superman was too easily defeated. For how overpowered Superman is as a character, I didn't feel that way about him at all. He was very easily defeated. His abilities as Superman, and I don't know. I had an issue with that, because it makes it a little bit less enjoyable to watch him as a character. You want to see him doing really epic things, in my opinion, as Superman. And it's kind of hard to enjoy those bigger moments when he's constantly getting his butt kicked, or he's constantly weak. So there were issues that I had in that. Those were probably my biggest issues with him, as well as kind of things that there were contradictory regarding his response to this. As you can tell from the trailers, there's this whole controversy about Superman in the media and in social media as well, because of his interference with this war, right? That I get. That's a fair thing to do with Superman. We saw that on BVS. But his response to it was very contradictory to me. I don't think this is really spoilery either. On one hand, he'll say things like, I can handle any question thrown at me. I mean, talking to Lois. But then within a few minutes, like the clip that was released before the movie, you see him getting very irate and going off because of the questions that she's asking him, which were, fairly enough, were, questions that would frustrate somebody in his position. But he just said that he could handle any question. He had all this confidence, you can ask me whatever you want. Then within a couple of minutes, he's super bothered by all of these questions being thrown at him because of his involvement. Another situation happens when she asks him about social media in the same conversation, and he's saying that he doesn't read the comments or he doesn't pay attention to social media. But then within a couple minutes, he's really irritated by certain hashtags and say that this one bothers him the most, and that I don't know. There's contradictory things like that for me as far as his personality and how he's responding to what this controversy is about him, which I think it makes more sense for him, just like in BVS. It makes sense for Superman or Clark in that situation to feel emotional and frustrated about, the world having these conflicting opinions about him, and him interfering with world conflicts, or just interfering with anything at all in the world, saving certain people. But then if it's contradictory like that, then it doesn't really land as well. You know what I mean? Supporting characters, there's a lot of supporting characters. You don't really have a chance to get to be attached to them in any way. Even I know it's the first movie, but they're just kind of there, and I don't feel like they were all necessary. I think out of the Justice League, or what they're calling in the movie Justice Gang members, Hawkgirl, Green Lantern, Mr. Terrific, I do think that Mr. Terrific was the most interesting. And he served the most purpose in the movie as far as like the plot and what was going on. Hawkman and Green Lantern, not as much. And there were issues I had with them too, kind of being flippant about and careless about things that happened with Superman that I didn't really feel like it made sense for them to react the way they did. And I don't want to get into spoilers about that part. But I think Mr. Terrific was the most interesting. And he actually served a purpose more in the film. He was honestly more interesting to me than Superman. Not to be like, he was more when he was on screen and the things that he was doing in his technology and stuff was more interesting to watch. Lois, I didn't really have a problem with. I felt like she was fine. Like I said, everything I kind of was just kind of, that's how it was fine. Nothing super, epic and amazing to me, and nothing completely like, terrible. Lex was, at moments he felt like a good villain, and then at other times there were reasons why I didn't understand why it was the way it was. Like the way he was kind of, this team of people that he has to kind of, use against Superman, I'll say in a non-spoilery way. The way that he was instructing them to fight or defeat, fight against Superman was weird. It felt like he was playing a video game, like he's giving these commands, and then there's people on computer. I don't know. It was kind of a weird way for me, in my opinion, for him to, I don't know. There were things that just kind of didn't make a whole lot of, they were, like I said, contradictory. Hard to say some of those things without getting into spoilers. Maybe when I talk about spoilers at some point, I'll get more specific about that part about it. Overall, I think it was a little harder to feel emotionally attached to this version of Superman just because you are thrown into the middle of what's going on. And I'm not saying that every movie has to be an origin movie. We all know his origin. We all know all of that. The beginning of the movie does bring you up to speed on what's going on via like text on the screen, which is fine. Like I said, not every movie has to, or not every universe has to start with an origin story. But I do think it kind of helps to have something that makes you feel a little bit more invested in the character before you see this going on, what's going on in this movie. I don't know. That's just, I guess that's hard to do without an origin. But just like the Superman movie just happened, and it's supposed to be the start of a universe, I feel like it's hard to kind of start like that. I think it's fine that they wanted to start with a Superman that's been established for a few years in this universe and in his world. But I do think it makes it a little bit harder to feel invested in what's going on in it, and it's just a different experience in that way. Let me know what you guys think. Are you going to watch it this weekend? Did you already see it with some of the earlier showings? If you did watch it, what do you think about it? I'm just neither here or there about it. That's kind of my opinion. I think there were moments that were cool. I do think one of the coolest things that they did with this one is the way his Fortress of Solitude comes up out of the ground and responds to him. So I do think that was a pretty cool aspect of the film, which we see in the trailers, which I thought was cool in the trailers too. There were moments in, like the final battle, I guess you would say, that were more like a good fight scene, a good action scene. So there were moments, I had moments of things that were more exciting or more enticing, more, but that's kind of what I expected. And like cool portal things like that Lex has, which I thought was a pretty cool thing. These portals that he has like to go into like this interdimensional space, which I liked. That's how I feel about it. So let me know your guys' thoughts too. Maybe some things didn't make sense that I was saying because you kind of have to get into spoiler territory for certain things, and I'll kind of hold off on that until more people have seen the movie. But yeah, feel free to share your thoughts as well and leave a thumbs up if you enjoyed this video. I do appreciate the support, and you can check out the short section also if you're interested. Thank you guys. See you next time.